Well, my first guest tonight says it is still possible to prevent the worst of global warming with the help of artificial intelligence. In his new book, Solomon's Code, Humanity in a World of Thinking Machines, Olaf Groth writes that AI will enable us for the first time to improve humanity with no zero-sum game. Olaf Groth is a professor at Holt International Business School, and he is the CEO of Cambrian Futures, which describes itself as a global network of thought leaders. And Mr. Groth is here with us tonight at the big table. It's good to see you again. It's, reading your book, you provide a positive message, especially when we apply it to the negative outlook on climate change that we got today. How will artificial intelligence really help us solve this climate crisis?
Yeah, look, I think we are clearly addicted to high growth in the economy, and we are addicted to a carbon-based economy. We need to change the model of growth. That requires cutting deals between the various stakeholders, which is really what's holding up more progress on climate change mitigation. That's a complex optimization problem. AI, especially in conjunction or in combination with quantum computing, can help us optimize deals so we can both optimize for climate mitigation.
Give me an example. Let's put it on the table. What would be something tangible?
So something tangible, for instance, would be how do we design mobility services for car companies that employ a lot of people, especially in Germany or in the United States, right? How do we sell more of something which is mobility and retain maximum employment by these car makers, right? That's a non-trivial problem. Right,
and it's a problem that's going to affect countries like the U.S. and Germany harder as we move forward. I want you to take a listen to what one of the young climate activists told a U.S. congressional committee last week about climate change, and then we're going to talk about that.
I can't wait until I'm sitting in your seats to change the climate crisis. You have to use the seats that you have now, because by the time I get there, it's going to be way too late. The good news is that experts agree that there are multiple pathways to decarbonize the United States energy system, and that doing so is both technologically and economically viable and beneficial.
All right, she has faith in the future. And so do you. But let me play devil's advocate here. If artificial intelligence is helping us, how do you explain the UN report that we got today that says global warming is actually accelerating? Yeah. It's happening faster than we thought it was just 6 months ago.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate, but it's unfortunately also not a real surprise, because climate scientists have always said that what's unknown to us are the tipping points in the Earth's systems, and that we could actually be walking toward an abyss on CO2 levels much more quickly than we think, because our normal models are not able to capture those tipping points. And I think clearly that's what's been happening if it's 3 times as fast. AI, quantum computing, can help us model these complex systems of systems in the Earth's atmosphere and the Earth's systems to get to those tipping points.
But that means that AI is going to have to be faster than the schedule as it is of reaching the abyss. Right?
That's right. And now that is the advantage of AI and quantum computing, that they can calculate complex scenarios much more quickly than humans can, let alone complex constellations of multi-stakeholders that all have financial interests, right?
Yeah, I mean, and you've got confidence that we're going to reach that level. I mean, because a lot of the doomsday fears out there will say that it's just too late and there's nothing that can be done to stop this process that was started decades ago.
Yeah. I think we need to clearly get many more scientists and business people and engineers around exactly this climate change mitigation problem with AI, rather than spending that energy on selling more stuff and figuring out how we can trigger people to consume more, right?
Right.
And that's a business model issue. We got to incentivize these experts.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's what Greta Thunberg today was saying. these dreams of eternal growth. People have to wake up and realize that's not possible.
That's right.
You are in Berlin this week, and we were talking earlier. You said that you met with the government of German Chancellor Angela Merkel to discuss AI here in Germany. What did you tell the government? What did they ask you?
I met with people at our office and elsewhere in the government, and quite frankly, I think the heads are in the right place. Everybody wants to make progress. There is a German AI strategy, and we can talk endlessly now over whether it's an optimum strategy. At the end of the day, you got to get onto that path of executing. And that is where Germany is having trouble. There is money dedicated, but progress is very slow because there is lots of bureaucratic, legal, commercial hurdles to be taken. And Germany, for all of its expertise and prowess, is unfortunately not very agile, not very fast.
Give me an example. Where do you see the biggest stunted growth or progress in AI in Germany?
Well, you know, we have entrepreneurial talent, we have scientific talent, and we have money. And yet it seems to be impossible to get all three together to create scalable, large-scale ventures, because in AI and in data, size actually does matter. And so we have to scale up, and for some reason, Germany has always had problems, with few notable exceptions, such as SAP and some other companies, to scale these large digital companies. So we have to break through that and figure out how to overcome these hurdles.
And that means less red tape.
Less red tape, I think, greater embrace of data sharing, creating data pools, creating some governance around that. But at the end of the day, making sure that everybody can tap into those data pools and the compute power that's necessary.
Yeah, that's necessary. The Internet of Things, I think, as it's known in German industry, 4.0, we're told that it's just around the corner. We're told that it's just around the corner as soon as we get 5G networks up and running, right? Yeah. Which we don't have right now. I want you to take a listen to what they are saying about 5G in China this week.
Okay.
Currently, all the equipment is standalone, which means all the content is saved locally. It's not saved in the cloud. Later on, with the development of 5G, all the content will be in the cloud, so that the cost of the hardware can be lowered and the content can be made in better quality, more efficient, more content and better looking. That's the benefits being brought by 5G.
Now that caught our attention because there he is in China at the Chinese electronics show, and he is predicting this perfect future world made possible by 5G. But this kind of future, and you and I both know this, it will really depend on who makes the 5G possible, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And I think we need to be very careful who builds this infrastructure of our future digital and data economy, because that's going to be the backbone on which the society and the economy operate, right?
Yeah, and for example, this company right here, Huawei. Did the German government, did they talk about that today? Because there are concerns here as well as in other countries in the European Union about how much Huawei do you allow in? Well,
it's a very tricky problem because there are a lot of German companies that actually rely on Huawei equipment in order to run their businesses, including telecom companies, and they can't wait for some political decision to be taken. Yet I am very suspicious because the Chinese government has been very clear in articulating that it has access to all data going through Chinese networks. And so the question is, can we develop technologies that trace what actually happens to European or American data on Huawei equipment networks?
And your suspicion is, yes, Beijing can.
Yes, Beijing can. Whether they do at any given point in time is to decide for cyber experts and the courts. But I personally would be very, very hesitant.
And if Germany or if the UK, if they say, listen, we can't wait any longer for the technology, we have to buy some of it from Huawei. They're making a decision that goes beyond infrastructure, aren't they? Yeah. It's a political decision, and in your opinion, is it also a national security decision?
It's a national security decision for sure. I do believe that we have to have secure networks. We can't do without that. I think we do need to source this from companies that are trustworthy. Some of these are Western companies, Ericsson, Nokia, some of the American companies like Cisco and others. They can step in and fill the gap.
Can they do that right now?
Well, it's very difficult because Huawei is admittedly ahead, so we will need time. We will probably need Huawei equipment in the first generation of the next network. But then let's test whether data is actually getting leaked and siphoned off, prove it, and then get other companies to fill the gaps, take the equipment out, which is very costly.
It's costly and it's risky.
Yes.
What did you tell the German government with this? I mean, do they have to, did they have to take sides in this?
Very much so. We believe that, the community of values between the United States and Europe is still very strong. It's been talked about a lot. And yes, there are tensions between both sides of the Atlantic, but I think that's still where our values alignment is. And we have very complementary assets that we can bring to the table between science and technology and commercial actors. So I do believe that's closer to our vest than the Chinese model, which frankly is not respectful to the individual.
And what was your feeling with the response that you got there from the German government?
Well, they're obviously concerned with the German companies that rely on their supply chains, many of which rely in turn on Huawei. And so we do need to be respectful to those business plans or jobs will get lost. But I think we do need to have a strategic plan on how to deal with this. And I think they understand that. The question is, how quickly can that happen? Because networks are going up.
Yeah, networks are going up. Final question before we run out of time. What about the Donald Trump factor in this? Did you get the feeling, because we've heard this many times from German members of parliament, that if there were a change in the White House, there would be also a change in the Bundestag and in the Chancellery?
You know, possibly. I will tell you that I think Donald Trump, for all of his flaws, has put his finger on a wound that is there for a reason, and that is that China needs to start becoming a responsible global economic, but also ethical player. And it has to become a responsible global citizen. And so I think it is good for him to exert some pressure. And I think that won't change depending on who's in the White House.
Yeah, but we'll have to see if the pressure works. Olaf Groth, the CEO of Cambrian Futures and author of Solomon's Code. Mr. Groth, we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us tonight.
Thanks for having me. Thank you, Brent.